Hi, I'm Rosemary Armeo, and as usual, you are tuning into On the Brink, my podcast. This is one of my favorite chapters. I do this once a semester. Most of you know I teach at UAlbany, I have for years. And once a semester, I ask three of my favorite students. Usually they're the best, and these are pretty good today too, but they're the most interesting, have unique and original things to say. And I ask them to come and talk to us. We don't do enough intergenerational talking about issues and topics. And there's a lot going on in the country today. So I want you to welcome three students: Mirai Abe, who is a Japanese exchange student studying journalism at UAlbany. Sean Ramirez. Sean is a sophomore, also studying journalism. When you study journalism at UAlbany, you take other topics too, but I do have journalism students today. Sean has taken several courses with me. He's interested in international reporting as well. And Latoya Wilkerson, who's also a repeat student with me. So I roped them into this. They don't get any special credit or anything, just my deep appreciation, and I hope your interest. So I'm going to let them bring up any topics they want, but I also do have a list of things I thought we would get their opinions on. And top of my mind are the huge protests that happened this weekend, April 5th. People turned out by the millions across the country, and including in Albany, where it was cold and raining and totally miserable, and it was still a packed state capitol lawn, but not a lot of young people. I felt like it was a bunch of my old hippie friends. Did any of you protest?
I'm an international student. I think you can tell from my funny accent. I'm on a student visa. I have an F1 visa. So, according to my visa, I'm not allowed to engage in any political activities, so including protests, of course. And
And
seeing the recent news of like international students, and even if they have a valid visa, I mean, permanent residents, they still get deported. So I really wanted to show up to the protest, but considering my safety, I decided not to.
I think that was smart. Mira has talked to several professors. You'd like to stay in the country and report. I think you'd be a fabulous reporter, but
Yeah.
you cannot endanger your status by even what writing editorials is dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'm scared. I even feel threatened because as a
Wow.
journalist, it's our job to speak up against something that the authority doesn't like, and then I cannot do that right now. It's frustrating.
I can understand that. Latoya, let me get you into the conversation. Did you protest or have any desire to this weekend?
I didn't know about it until I actually met with one of my ministers at church. I went back home this weekend and
Mm-hmm.
he was talking about it, and I didn't know until he had brought it up to my attention. And so I went and did some digging, and I found out about what Marco Rubio had said about if you're a student and you're coming here with a student visa, and how he said that it's like um, he could take your visa away if he finds out that you're protesting.
Right, right. And
So,
Trump has also threatened American students who protest with severe punishments. It's definitely a danger to speak your mind these days. Sean,
mhm.
how about you? Any temptation to protest, or are you staying out of the fray?
I think I'm tempted to join, for sure, but I am like a citizen through birthright citizenship,
Right.
and most of my family is actually still um like being in the process of being documented. So there's a lot of paranoia like in our house right now.
And there should be. The deportations are, of course, connected to the protest. Getting rid of protesters, that's the excuse to shunt them out of the country. Do you have any personal, Sean, I'll start with you because you obviously do, any personal connections that face a danger, and how are you coping with it?
Um Yeah, I my family has like had a long history of like problems with like deportation matters. We fled like red states because we were really like scared of the atmosphere of like being deported there, especially like even during the Obama administration, actually.
Hmm.
So it's been like in just America that we've like been really scared of.
Tell us where your family
Um,
is from, Sean. Where your family is from, Sean.
oh yeah. So my family is Colombian. My grandmother's spouse is Mexican, and
Hmm.
he was actually deported in 2012. And they were separated for 8 years, and he just moved into the country last year. Um, yeah, that's about 10 years, actually. Yeah,
Hmm.
10 years of them separated and them having to visit each other in the other side of the border. And it was really hard. You know, they separated marriages and families. He was like my grandfather. He's my godfather. So it was
Hmm.
really tough to go as a kid. Um, and currently, my eldest uncle, he is here through asylum, and that he applied for that during the Biden administration. And there's still a lot of fear about whether or not he's going to still be like accepted
Right, right.
here. Yeah, and he brought his family here, his wife or uh his ex-wife and his daughter, pretty much.
Right,
And
right.
we're all like in this together, pretty much. But like we feel safer in our city, but our city is a target because it has a high refugee population in Utica, New
And
York.
that's right. That is an upstate New York center for refugees. You're absolutely right. How about you, Mira? Are you getting any advice from your parents at home or from university officials or anything about protecting your student visa?
They don't speak English, first of all, so they're not very catching up on what is going on in the US. So I don't really hear from my
Interesting.
parents. But my friend told me, just to be quiet, because they know that I'm a little bit opinionated on a lot of topics. So they're like, I know you have so many things that you want to write, for example, for the student paper, but
Right.
like, hey, not now. Like your safety is important. So yeah, I feel like I could have done more if the current administration was so much better. I feel like I could have learned so much as a student journalist.
As a teacher, a professor at UAlbany, it's so frustrating to me when I see students like the two of you who add remarkable stuff to a class, and you learned English and learned to travel by yourself. You're both independent and do this under tremendous pressure and family woes too. And this is something that the country used to appreciate, and now apparently in this administration we do not. Latoya, do you have any people close to you who are going through similar worries about deportation or protests?
Well, my parents are technically they were immigrants. They got their citizenship
Hmm.
in 2016, right before Trump first became president. So I don't think I have to worry about that. But currently, they are the only two people I have that are citizens in my family that are staying here. I don't think my grandmother is a citizen on one of my parents' side, and on the other side, my grandma is currently getting her visa, or she has her visa, but I think she has to come back every six
Right,
months
to
to
renew.
keep it. Yeah, and so she was here when COVID had first happened and she was stuck, and now she's back again to renew it. But her fear is that she might get taken by ICE or if she's like on the street because it was actually expired and she had to renew it before coming. And so she ended up doing that. But some of these people aren't really good.
Hmm.
So
And
yeah.
Latoya, tell our listeners where your family is from.
My family's from Trinidad.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
I want listeners to pay attention here. I pick these students at random without paying attention to background. And the diversity of UAlbany is one of its amazing strengths. I have classes where we can attack an issue from different religions, different ethnicities, different gender. It's just fascinating and amazing. And DEI, the new dirty word of the Trump administration, is not in fashion anymore. Can you all three, I'd like you to talk a little bit about why you think it's important and why this is a wrong-headed, if you agree with it, you could tell me that too, but I suspect you think it's wrong-headed on the part of the Trump administration. Sean, let's start with you.
For the matter of DEI, I think it's very false to pretend that we live in like a meritocracy, which is like what we're trying to do when we get rid of DEI. And I genuinely feel like that's not the case. That's not what we merit, especially if you look at this administration, like the clown show that they have of like people that they put up in these positions is usually because they know someone. And with DEI, I feel like it's more of a meritocracy, if anything. Like you actually bring different kinds of people into a room with you, and that's the goal of it, essentially, is to diversify the room.
Mm-hmm.
And without that constriction, whoever is in control of that will just select people that they know out of comfort and neglect people who are in marginalized or forgotten about communities.
Mm-hmm. Latoya, how about you? Can you add to that?
Yeah, I think it's very unfair and unrealistic to think that America is not a melting pot. You open up your country for these people and preach the land of the free and freedom, but when they come here, they're met with all these responsibilities and semi-hostility, or for the most part on Trump's end. And you want people to come and you want people to work for you, and you preach that these groups of people are welcomed, and when they do get here, they are not. And then you take them back to somewhere they're not even from. So it's very contradicting. But I do think that diversity is for the better in this country, especially. And I think that everyone works well being able to understand each other.
That's true. And Mira, you came halfway across the globe to make sure that you were in a background, a setting very diverse from what you came from. So do you have views on why this is a bad policy to sort of erase it now?
The problem is the zero-sum thinking. I feel like they're thinking that if the minorities gain something, the majority loses something. In reality, it's not. Like, if minorities gain, the majority will actually gain something. They will learn so much about different cultures, and then they gain so much like multi-dimensional perspectives. I mean, isn't it fun? I mean, I think that's fascinating, and then I just don't really get why they don't like that. And then
No.
from a minority's perspective, as a Japanese international student, I just feel more welcomed when I see so many different faces. For example, in a classroom, in a supermarket, anywhere I go, I see different faces. I feel more welcome and then more safer. So I think that's like very, very important, and that's what makes America a good country. Yeah.
Well, up to now, I've always been in situations in my career where I put myself, as you did, in the place where you were automatically the minority. Working in Africa, I was the only white person in our entire newsroom. And I found the same thing. People were very welcoming. I was allowed to be curious and to ask probing questions, and everybody just laughed and answered back. And it was an amazing experience that not too many of my countrymen have, not enough of my countrymen have. So it's really demoralizing to me to see this now. But let's get back now to the protest. You obviously know the issue, and you may have, in two instances at least, reasons personally not to go, not to have been at the protest. But what about your classmates and your roommates? Why were there so few people at the protest? Is there a feeling that protest, marching in the street, does not work? Is that still an old hippie idea? It worked in the 70s, and you guys don't believe in it? Am I aging myself by even asking this question? Sean, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, I've been seeing studies dictating or showing, indicating, not dictating, that our generation is actually growing more right-leaning and conservative, and it's been rising. And if you kind of look at the trend pre-pandemic, that would be like a really big shock. I remember there would be demonstrations that in high school, like kids wanted to show their like dissatisfaction with anti-gun legislation, or I mean, with yeah, with gun
Yeah,
legislation not being corrected in the country,
right.
and um, trying to make the school a safer place and such. And now, even if you look online, a lot of the spaces are actually uh, focused on conservative like viewpoints and talking points. And so I think that goes with political participation in those areas as well is diminishing in Gen Z. That because like those protests are more left leaning, so they're gonna have
Right.
less Gen Z focus.
Right.
Demographic is
And
less of them.
well, and we actually know from the last election that Donald Trump built a lot of his strategizing on going after young, conservative, mostly male Zoomers, and was successful at that. So you're right. Younger people are not that whole idea that the college students are all going to vote for Democrats, and so we have to turn them out. Maybe that's not true anymore for liberals. They're thinking differently. Latoya, how about you? Are you seeing any kind of a belief or a call for action in some other way rather than just marching in the streets among the people you deal with, you hang out with?
I was actually talking to my sister about this weekend because she's a very big advocate and activist that I know, at least personally. She's always one to protest, always one to speak her mind, and actually she didn't protest. And I asked her why, and she had said like she just kind of felt defeated after the election,
Yeah.
especially with like trying so hard to like get people to vote and voting, and she was like all of this just for people to not vote. And some people say they voted for third parties, but some people just didn't vote at all because they were scared or they didn't know what to do. And I think that Trump has put fear in a lot of Democrats' like heads or liberals' heads that like if you do X, Y, and Z, these will be the consequences. And unfortunately, he has lived up to some of his word when it comes to
Mhm.
that sort of thing. And I guess it's just about, in addition to what Sean had said, but also why am I going to protest if
Right.
this isn't
Right.
going to change?
Right. Yeah. The you have to wait for it. Protests don't happen, don't make change overnight. It's really true. Amira, I'm going to ask you a different question. You've noticed, you've been in my classes, I've talked about this. Students don't show up. Attendance is terrible. And it was never fantastic. I mean, students have to feel their way, and it's the first time they're on their own. They don't have their parents nagging them. And so sometimes attendance falls off. But now I'm finding even when I demand attendance or I'll lower your grade, students don't come. And it's gotten much worse since COVID. What's going on? What do you think?
So your course is my most favorite this semester. So I know. So like I don't really get why students don't show up, honestly. But like even if they're struggling with something, I wish like they could let you know. But also we don't want to judge them for not being there without knowing the reason.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm going to talk in a minute about some mental health issues, which I also see on the increase. This isn't just my class. I'm not looking for, my students to say, "Oh, your classes are great. I would never miss them." This is across the board. My colleagues all notice this, and it's been written about in academic journals. Attendance has not recovered since COVID, when you had to take classes, sitting in your beds or your bedrooms at home, and it was easy to just blacken the screen on the Zoom the Zoom call and tune out. We have not gotten kids back. And nationwide, we've seen huge losses, defects that have not been made up, even in the 3 years that we've been back. Students in K through 12, for example, or their scores are lower, their academic achievement is lower. What's going on with you young people? What do you think, Sean? What's your theory
Uh,
on this?
yeah, I think it's sort of I mean, every generation there comes sort of like this fear of something coming in and destroying the youth. But it
Okay.
but it is true to some degree that the dopamine rush that people get from the lower attention spans of, you know, being
Yeah.
so connected online is part of the reason. Especially because we see like there's this term that Gen Z has of iPad kids, of kids that are like really connected and they're on it like constantly, and that definitely affects um, their cognitive ability to retain information and such, um, primarily.
So
But I
you're
do
all brain
remember,
damaged. My
yeah,
students are brain damaged. Oh my goodness.
but that's
Right.
just primarily a theory through observation that many people have had. I don't want to say it definitively because people used to say the same thing about SpongeBob, that it was making
Yeah.
kids have ADHD because it was so like energetic and like in their head, like in their
Yeah.
face.
Yeah. Flitting from one thing to another. Right. Right. Latoya, what's your diagnosis here?
Well, coming from a perspective of struggling a year ago with my attendance, I guess it's for me personally, I can speak to the mental health aspect. I think
Yeah.
that,
I want to get into this.
yeah, last year I was very sick, like physically. So it took a toll on me mentally, in which, like, I think I had missed the first 2 weeks of year class actually last year. And I was just so sick that I couldn't get out of bed and I was bedridden. And then I guess being in the habit of not going to class because I was sick, it was just like whenever I felt like the slightest bit, oh, my head hurts, oh, my stomach hurts, I'm going to sit out in fear of throwing up in the middle of class.
Right. Right.
But I also didn't have the best friends in college, and they wouldn't encourage me like, hey, like if this happens, it's okay, like just go to the bathroom, but still try and make it to class. I think that coming growing up as a very sheltered kid with strict parents, I think college was like my first, like, I'm independent, this is what I have to do. So freshman year was kind of like all over the place for me and trying to
Mhm.
figure out that I'm not a good person independently in terms of being organized. I always need my mom to be like, Latoya, did you do this? Latoya, did you do that? And not having her freshman year was really hard. And then I eventually got the hang of it his junior year. I should have got the hang of it last year, but
Well, what you're describing is and should be the typical college experience. I mean, you have to learn how to be independent, how to have fun and have a social life, but also not miss class and keep up with work. And you, as you say, you have done that. I still, though, I'm seeing just a rash, just way more than I ever did of things like anxiety. I have so many students who they get permission to do this. The school allows it, where you get permission to take extra time on a test, or they need extra direction on papers, and they're just terrified. And part of it is illness. I agree with that. COVID was horrible, and it left people open to, if you got the flu, you thought it was COVID. If you had a stomach virus, you thought it was COVID, and you were encouraged not to come to class. So illness was part of it, but it's something more. It's just a mental thing. Do you recognize this? Do you see this in your own classes, or is it just me sitting at the lectern above you all that I'm noticing it? Sean, what do you think?
Um, I do notice that like less attendance, mainly in like my lecture class, and like I have a really big like lecture class, where
They're
every
hard.
time the class less than 50%, he does a pop quiz and he makes the TAs grade them. And it's like
Mm.
that. I mean, I'm grateful that I'm there, but then I'm like, snap, if I wasn't there last week, I hope you didn't do a pop quiz. So that's my like main anxiety about it. I think, but like even then, I still don't think the class like attendance is where it should be or where he wants it to be.
Right, right.
So it definitely is sort of like because we're living in a digital age where you guys upload like notes online. I think some kids feel like this sort of independence, like, oh, I could do it, I could catch up,
Mhm.
because they were able to during COVID, where they were able to just take notes, learn right before the test, and then take the test, or even do it like
Yeah.
next to the test.
It's really
Um,
hard to be a teacher right now too because I can't lecture. If I talk the classes, uh, and you all are in them, they're like 90 minutes long. If I were to talk for 90 minutes, the entire class would be snoring. I already lose a few when I go over a half an hour, and you don't want to just show movies and stuff. It feels like grade school again. It's very difficult to keep your attention. Latoya, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this might be a little controversial, but I feel like we're just lazy. I think laziness is really like it's like a lazy epidemic. I think there's a lot of kids who just expect things, or students, I don't know why I keep saying kids, but there's a lot of students who also just are lazy. And I think it's also because of COVID being able, like you had said, like just sitting there, everything's online. You can easily search something up if you're doing homework. So I feel like we've gotten used to having everything handed to
Oh
us,
yeah. Oh yeah, that's
very
true.
much so. And I think that because we always rely on, oh, I can just search this up and I'll be fine. I don't need to go to class for this. When it's like, that's not true at all.
Well, I'd like to think that there's something you get extra in class, but I'm not so sure.
I agree. I think
My
there
my
is.
confidence is waning here. Mira, you pay attention very closely in class. I always thought it was because English is your second language, although you speak it, of course, exceedingly well. Do you have any observations about American students compared to what you know from home?
About students being lazy, the first thing I notice is that students wear pajamas to class, which is something I've never seen in Japan.
Yes, it's very casual. They wear either
Yeah,
pajamas or high fashion down to full makeup and false eyelashes and sexy clothes. It's amazing what students come into in my classes.
yeah. That's one thing. But I feel like I'm I myself a very, very anxious person. And then what's making me anxious the most right now is job seeking.
Oh
And
yeah.
I feel like among our generation, I feel like there is a sense of hopelessness about our future. And I feel like a college degree is becoming more and more useless because of
Wow.
how competitive the job market is. There's actually just like social media trend where like people just like complain that computer science majors are gonna end up in the shelter because they cannot find the job. I feel like that's real because like what's the point of going to class if the degree is gonna be useless? I feel like it's also worth mentioning.
That's fascinating. Do you other two agree with that at all, Sean or Latoya? Do you sense
yeah,
that?
there's definitely like a sense of entitlement, but also like hopelessness. So it kind of goes both. It's like a bit of a
Yeah.
paradox. Uh,
Well, they go
uh,
together. They together they would really make you not a very attentive student. I can see
the
that.
amount of people I know that spend money that they don't have, I'm guilty of this. Uh,
Me too.
um,
Oh, I never do that. It's
it's
true.
like very true, and it's just because it's like, well, it will. That's a problem for me later. Like because there's so many problems that we're expected to have later. We're just gonna live now and worry and make the later version of us like suffer because they're gonna suffer either way. They're not gonna have a social security
Mm-hmm.
plan. They're not.
Mm-hmm. Well, and maybe none of us will have Social Security. Maybe that's a smart way to think. Live for now, because you never know what will happen in the future. For those of you punching into the middle of this, you are listening to three fantastic UAlbany students. They are one sophomore and two juniors. They're all journalism majors. They're very smart. They are Mirai Abe, Sean Ramirez, and Latoya Wilkerson. I appreciate your being here. I want to switch to something else, also very newsworthy, and that's TikTok, which I guess has another stay of execution. It should have been knocked out of by law, should be knocked out of the American market. But President Trump has delayed the stay of execution. He has put it in, he's extended it until he can figure out a deal. Do all of you listen to or watch or pay any attention to TikTok? Sean,
Yeah,
do you?
unfortunately.
It's
Yeah.
pretty addictive. Mira, do you?
I'm a
Oh,
team Instagram reel. I don't use TikTok, but what is going on around like the TikTok
yes.
controversies, that's crazy. Because where is freedom of speech?
Yeah, good question. So, what do you think is going on? Talk about this. Is it just American anti-Chinese feeling? Is this politics? What do you think is the reasoning for it?
Well,
I
I'm sure that oh, I'm sorry.
oh no. I think
Go ahead, Sean.
it was a bit of so like when the first ban happened, it was if you saw this note pop up, which was thanks to President Trump,
Yep.
the app will be back. Um, and that was even before he was inaugurated,
Yes,
actually.
it was. It
So
was back in January. Hmm.
yeah, this is the company kissing the ring of the presidency. And this has
Yep.
been a common critique of the administration that if you just get in his good graces, he'll do anything you want, a
Flattery is a
favor.
way to get around the president. Yes, that's true. The initial worry, and it's still felt by many American politicians, is that um, personal data, can be collected off of sites like TikTok or X or Facebook or any of the social media. But the difference here is that the parent company of TikTok is Chinese. So personal data about American citizens is going directly to the Chinese communists, they say. Does that sound credible to you, Mira? Do you think you said it was crazy? You think that's part of the
Um,
craziness?
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. I would say there is this like anti-Chinese sentiment or anti-communist because like China stealing Americans' data, like I'm sh well, it might be controversial, but Apple, Google, Microsoft, like I'm
They
sure
all do.
they tried to steal the customers' data as well. And you know, a random journalist being added to the Signal group chat, that's more of like a national security issue. Yeah.
They don't steal the data. We allow them to do it. Those elaborate
Oh yeah, that's true.
agreements that we don't read and then sign off on give them permission to take it.
Mm-hmm.
And we know what they're doing with them in the American companies. They're selling us stuff. They're selling that data, making money on our information, and then selling things to us. Latoya, how about you? You unfortunately, you say, listen to TikTok. If it goes away, what do you do instead?
Actually, I thought about this in light of your media deprivation assignment. I really did enjoy that.
Okay, you
But
should, you have to, now you have to explain what it is,
oh,
though.
I didn't use any form of media for 2 days, or I think it was just one day, a day and a
No,
half,
it
one day.
was two
It
days.
was
I don't
two
know. I
days,
don't know
yeah.
how long you lasted, but yeah, 2 days you're
Yeah.
supposed.
I lasted a day and a half. That's why I got confused. Um, but in light of that, I was gonna delete TikTok. I ended up deleting Instagram, so I don't have Instagram anymore. But I was gonna delete TikTok, but I was like, I barely use it anyway. But I've noticed this, that when I delete one form of media, I automatically gear to another form of media, even if I never used it as much. I think it's just the act of scrolling. And if it does go away, I think it'll be better for everyone. Obviously, people in their curious nature and their nature to give themselves to the world will find another app to use or another social form of media to use. I'm not against it in totally, but I am in terms of what's being dictated, like what I can or cannot use. I
Mhm.
feel like that's the end of it that I don't agree with at all.
Yeah, it's like Mira says, that's freedom of speech. I'm
Right.
reminded of a class that a couple of you were in this past week where one of our students, one of your classmates, is a TikTok influencer. She's a great student, but she has 150,000 followers, which is astounding to me. And she writes about things like off the top of her head, relationships and makeup and jewelry. And that class where she talked about how she got into it, how she's monetizing it, how she could have this could actually be her career, um, was kind of shocking to this boomer because it's not serious in my view. This is not, she's not talking about world issues. They're interesting, but it isn't earth shattering. It isn't dramatic. It isn't important. So what is it? Is that really just a boomer perspective or is this what's, go ahead, Latoya. You know what I'm getting at. Go ahead.
Yeah. I actually was thinking the same thing when she was presenting. Um, Personally, if I had a public platform, not that I want one, I would use it to promote opinions or more political things, but I guess that's in my
Yeah,
nature
yeah,
because if I have a big platform or a big view of people seeing my stuff, then I would try to like promote change in a good way. However, the other argument would be that people aren't as interested as that. Like they go on TikTok to just like lose their brain and brain rot, as we say.
right.
And I think it's easier to brain rot if you have someone making unserious videos. And if that's what gets the
Absolutely.
most attention, then I guess no one will listen to the little fish from SpongeBob talking about breaking news.
So I made a point in the class. I let this discussion go on. It was almost a tangent, but I let it go on because there's a thing in journalism, and we see consumers see this too, news consumers too can see it too, that you may read a story that you have absolutely no interest in the topic at all. It's like, why am I even reading this? But you can't stop yourself because people who care and know about a topic, who tell us about it, are inherently fascinating. So my last question to all of you, and I'm going to start with Mira, is what is it about college students today that we should know that many of us don't? Many of us older people especially don't know, but we should. Mira, I'm putting you on the spot by going first.
The current social and political situations, um, catching up on them, it's exhausting. We're exhausted. Um,
Mhm.
we feel so powerless. We feel hopeless. And every time your phone chimes, it's another right being lost. I mean,
Right.
yeah, we're still young, but we have to think a lot about our future. Well, I would say we're just tired and exhausted.
Wow. Okay, that says something about our mental health issues then too.
Yeah.
Sean, how about you?
To add on to Mira's point, like that is like very true. Like, I think the amount of people I know that I just chose their major because it was just like, oh, it's gonna like for job security essentially.
Mhm.
Which I think, in my opinion, the point of like pursuing academia should be like the pursuit of knowledge of something that they're interested in. And I want to live in that world. I want to live
Yes.
in that world where people do things that they are interested in. Um, but like we're not even secured a job after, especially with like AI. It's taking like most of the jobs in art focused fields, and then um, what's it called? uh it's the visa plan for like foreigners to stay here, but it's like a
Right.
work visa pretty much.
Right. Right.
Um, Tech companies use it, and it's essentially like they use it like indentured servitude as cheaper labor because it would be less
Mhm.
to have them work here, and they will be less willing to ask for raises because they're more wanting to stay in the country.
Right. Their status would
Then
be threatened. Hmm.
exactly. So there's a lot of stuff that I think the government could do to protect the future of labor and as well as like uh, the cost of school, essentially.
Right. School is becoming, you have to indenture yourself through debt in order to go to school in too many cases. Yeah, I see that at UAlbany all the time. Students are working full time and then trying to take a full load of classes. And I'm wondering why they don't come to class. There's a reason right there. Latoya, let's finish with you. What about the current crop of college students should we know about?
Um, I guess just like bearing with us, kind of like what Mira said about like we're tired and exhausted. I guess uh, the current crop of college students are still trying to like figure out their way in terms of like if they want to, like what Sean said, do this just because it ensures them money or do this because they actually want to do it. And I actually thought about that in my major as well, about journalism. I've had like a is this really what I want to do, or is
Mhm.
this something that was pushed onto me? But I have figured it out, and I really said it is in fact what I want to do. I just didn't know there was a term for it at the
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
um, and I guess one thing to know about is that just to understand that we are all still learning, very
Mhm.
much still learning,
Mhm.
and just patience, I guess.
Okay. I want to thank Mirai Abe, Sean Ramirez, and Latoya Wilkerson, three UAlbany students who have shared their experiences and their thoughts with us. Very worthwhile. And I end my podcast with a toast. And so this is an easy one tonight. Obviously, I want to toast the young people of UAlbany who are diverse and smart and harried and worried and pressured and exhausted. And you're the hope of the future, even while you have to worry about your future now and what it holds. We're not making it easy for you. So thank you again.